Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Dave Percy, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, we've got on the hazardous weather graphic, still have a flood advisory out right along the Kobuk River now. It's for the Kobuk River alone, and not the river basin of the Noatak and Kobuk. So it's right along the river there from specifically Kobuk to Kiana, and look for some minor flooding to continue. The advisory's out through 4:45 p.m. Tuesday afternoon. And from there, we'll move on to the satellite imagery. A lot of clouds out through here from the southwest coast, eastern Bering northward, all the way up into the Chukchi Sea area, in across the North Slope, and it looks like down across the western Koyukuk Valley, but clear here from the upper Yukon Valley areas, southwest, or areas of sunshine anyway, right down across the Kuskokwim Valley into northern Bristol Bay, and a little bit here over the northern Copper River Basin. Clouds moving into the central interior, east central interior around Fairbanks, and then we have this frontal boundary here slowly pushing eastward, weakening as well, kept rain going and showers along the southeast coast here. Most of the steady rain over the central and southern areas, becoming more showery up along the coast, with those showers really scattering out this afternoon, if not just ending completely here. Prince William Sound, the North Gulf Coast, a couple rotating back down toward Kodiak, but northwest flow there beginning to even break the clouds out there with the drier air back to the northwest. And down over the Aleutians, cloud shield, mid and high level clouds here coming up, spreading over the central to the eastern Aleutians, but the main precipitation forming clouds remaining down to the south, and the main front right through there extending back to the west. Looks like most of this will be just sliding off to the east and missing, and we'll be watching another system here pushing out of the Russian Far East. You can see the clouds slowly advancing east and southeast, associated with a warm front that's still back inland there. Now be slowly pushing eastward across the northern Bering Sea over the next couple of days. On the chart today, we've got an upper level low coming eastward here, kicking off showers over the along the southwest coast, back to the Pribilofs, and then on down in toward the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay, really becoming isolated here. Start picking up the showers, isolated showers right along the cloud edge there, but dry to the east, dry to the north, and just clouds here over the eastern Aleutians. A lot lighter on the winds today than they were yesterday. Still pretty gusty here along the Alaska Peninsula, gusts 35, possibly size 40 miles per hour in some of the windier areas, and breezy conditions back up through the Bering Strait, and even less wind there for the western Arctic coast, Kotzebue Sound. A little bit of light rain, fog, and drizzle falling earlier today, eastern Arctic coast. A little bit more of that here on the west side with that trough, and then kind of a break in that downslope area, picking up some more moisture, picking up the showers again, and light drizzle, fog, that type of condition there for the Seward Peninsula, especially out over the Bering Strait. Otherwise, this weak low over the southeast interior, again, not producing anything more than just clouds. Showers again scattering out really nicely here along the Kenai Peninsula and North Gulf Coast areas this afternoon, with just mostly cloudy skies. And then the rain and fog, the main front, having pushed off to the east. This trough kept it wet there today, and the main low center now still off to the southwest, off the coast there. We'll see tonight that that tracks eastward toward the Queen Charlottes. So look for the showers to begin to diminish and taper off, actually becoming isolated on toward morning, with mostly cloudy skies here for the Panhandle. Mostly cloudy North Gulf Coast, a few breaks into south central Alaska. fair here across all of the eastern interior tonight, mostly clearing up over the northeast. Less of it as you head west or southwest. Chance of showers along the Alaska Range, maybe the central southern Kuskokwim Valley into Bristol Bay. And then this trough out here to the west, again, gusty winds out of the northwest, under advisory levels though. Back up to the north there with the rain, fog, low sliding conditions occurring on the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutian Range areas, with still looks like occasional rain or showers for the Yukon Delta up across the Seward Peninsula, and get into a mixed precipitation pattern there for the western Arctic coast over to the central coast, but amounts pretty light and nothing accumulating in the way of any snow expected, especially down at sea level. Out to the west or the northwest, there's that next system tracking eastward there with the warm front and the rain spreading into the Bering Sea, but staying west of St. Lawrence Island until it looks like tomorrow. Wind and rain pick up. Pretty good winds with this system, especially on the south side here, with the high pressure down to the south and the low up here. Pretty good gradient across the northern Bering Sea, so that's going to kick those winds up pretty nicely tomorrow. Narrow ridge make for a nice day, mostly here for the southwest coast, down across just east of the Pribilofs to the eastern Aleutians. Lingering showers here, and still breezy for the northeast Bristol Bay area, mainly along the Aleutian Range. Winds getting much lighter along the Alaska Peninsula, and light winds, partly sunny skies, I'll call it, for all of the Aleutian chain there. Could be some patchy areas, low clouds and fog, but nothing too serious. And again, just some scattered showers here for the southeast coast, mostly cloudy, drying out, say, from Elephant Cove and North Gulf Coast. Could see a little bit of sunshine tomorrow on up through the eastern interior. And then the outlook for Tuesday, less showers, still a chance of an isolated shower or two over the Panhandle, otherwise mostly cloudy, mostly sunny here. North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, South Central Alaska, all the way down to Kodiak Island, with a weak offshore flow component to the winds, narrow ridge up into the eastern interior. Not strong enough to cut the shower activity off completely. A chance here for the White Mountains on down toward North Wyandotte. And then that next system advances eastward here into the across the Seward Peninsula, with rain pushing in, trailing back across the Yukon Delta, mostly there to Nunivak Island, and fair over the Aleutians, but watch for the winds to increase here with a chance of rain late in the day from the Fox Islands, but the winds will be on the increase, but staying dry for the central Aleutians, light winds under high pressure out west. Temperatures across the southeast coast, forecast lows for tonight, 40s for the Panhandle, and it looks like upper 20s to lower 30s here for the colder areas of the Copper River Basin up through the 40-mile country to about Eagle. 30s for the North Slope on out to the Arctic coast, and then near 40 here over the Koyukuk Valley, back across toward Kotzebue and Selawik, upper 30s for Nome, and lower 40s for much of the southwest interior, as well as the Alaska Peninsula, mid 40s for the Aleutians. Highs for tomorrow, 60 to 65, Tanana Valley up to the upper Yukon there. Otherwise, 55 to 60, Copper River Basin, Susitna Valley, and that pattern also for the Panhandle. Upper 40s, lower 50s out west, the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians out here, with lows for the Seward Peninsula, lower to mid 40s. Same thing for St. Lawrence Island, upper 30s along the western Arctic coast, but possibly dropping near or a little below freezing there over the western North Slope areas. And then for the lows Tuesday morning, shaping up like this, not too bad here over the Panhandle, staying on the mild side, 45 to 50, and lower 40s for the North Gulf Coast, upper 30s Copper River Basin, and 35 to 40 there for the eastern Tanana Valley areas northward. Cooler now, some upper 20s showing up, at least on the map here from the Brooks Range, and now probably extend out to the North Slope, with the Arctic coast staying mostly in the lower to mid 30s, upper 30s Kotzebue Sound, Seward Peninsula, and lower 40s St. Lawrence Island, down to the Pribilofs, as well as Alaska Peninsula, 40 to 45, all the way out to Shemya and Attu. And then for the highs Tuesday afternoon, probably losing the 60s up here over the eastern interior, so mid to upper 50s up there, 55 to 60, could hit 60 yet in the Susitna Valley there around Talkeetna, Trapper Creek. Otherwise, upper 40s, lower 50s, Bering Sea and Aleutians, and 55 to 60 there for the southeast coast, with upper 50s across the Copper River Basin.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather for tomorrow, looking a lot of IFR up to the north there, as you can see up along the north slope on out to the central eastern Arctic coast. Marginal VFR southward from there, some IFR St. Lawrence Island. Mostly marginal here, southeast Bering Sea along the Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay, and then right up most of the Kuskokwim Valley, western Alaska Range into the central interior. VFR farther out to the west, VFR over the east side here on down to the North Gulf Coast. Panhandle looking pretty good, patch of marginal VFR, at least start the day off over the northern areas. And then in the afternoon, areas of that along the eastern border there. VFR eastern interior, otherwise marginal, some IFR here along the Alaska Range. Areas of marginal VFR into Bristol Bay, but not too bad out over the Bering Sea, some marginal stuff up north. IFR up along the central Arctic coast and much of the north slope southward. So kind of increasing here along the Brooks Range, central Brooks Range and eastern areas there during the afternoon. And for the next day, Tuesday morning, IFR, Brooks Range, up across the eastern north slope, Arctic coast, marginal back to the west. A little more in the way of IFR now, up along the Alaska Range on the west side here up toward Windy Pass. A little bit of marginal stuff on down the east side, as well as over the Talkeetna Mountains, possibly the Kenai Peninsula. Marginal VFR west coast, northern Bering Sea. VFR for the Aleutians and southern Bering, and VFR also here for the North Gulf Coast on down across the Panhandle. Afternoon forecast there. IFR here, kind of a band from the western Brooks Range and North Slope southward, southwest to Kuskokwim Bay, on back right across the Pribilof Islands, marginal following in behind up to St. Lawrence Island. VFR out ahead, areas of marginal though over the eastern interior. Pretty clear over the Panhandle. Passes Anaktuvik, VFR trending toward IFR late in the day. A little longer for Adigan, VFR becoming marginal. And Chilkoot, or Lake Clark and Merrill, both marginal VFR. Rainy marginal, and windy VFR becoming marginal. And Isabel looking good, as well as Mentasta. No problems over there. And let's see, Tanita VFR may become marginal late in the day. And Portage VFR trending toward IFR in the later afternoon. And for Chilkoot and White, VFR becoming marginal, possibly late in the afternoon. Moving on to the freezing levels here, we've got kind of a cold pool right over the southeast coast, about 4,000 feet, not too bad. Otherwise 5 to 6 here in the east, then cooling, a little cooler, 2,000 feet, dropping down into the, through the Bering Strait there, into the northern Bering Sea, with the surface back up over the Russian Far East. And then really we've got a 2,000 to 4,000 foot pattern here across the southern Bering to the Alaska Peninsula, a little bit warmer out to the west. Icing shaping up like this. We've got a band of light to isolated moderate rime or mixed icing from the western North Slope Arctic coast through the interior on down into south central Alaska, mostly about 5,000 feet. Areas of here. Another batch coming in with the next system in towards St. Lawrence Island, the northern Bering. And then we've got a little bit of leftover stuff here for the Panhandle. Most of that's going to be off into Canada, but the eastern border there will be a little vulnerable, especially early on in the day. Moving to the jet stream, upper level low tracking eastward right over Kodiak Island tomorrow, the next one. The former one now slipping into British Columbia south of the Panhandle, carrying a jet to the south side of that, about 140 knots, extending back to the Alaska Peninsula, and then beyond that, it converges. This northwest jet at about 70, and then only 40 to 50 coming around the, or through the interior here, southeasterlies, upper ridging, retreating a little bit to the northwest, and the next system here, well south of the Aleutians. For the 9,000 foot wind flow chart, northwest 20 to 25 over the interior, up to 35 to 40, Alaska Peninsula, south of Kodiak Island. Pretty good winds coming in with this next system sliding out of the Russian Far East, and the high down here to the south, putting a good squeeze on the atmosphere there. Westerlies 40 to 45 knots, fall back to 25 to 35, but the whole pattern slipping eastward. easterlies 20 to 25, central Aleutians. And for 3,000 feet, pretty light winds here across all of the Panhandle, both at 3 and 9,000 feet. Gulf of Alaska, on up the east side here, really light winds. Northwest 30 to 35 now across the Alaska Peninsula from Bristol Bay, maybe 40 knots there just south side. And as far as turbulence goes, look for moderate chop northeast Bristol Bay.
It's a complicated project, but a simple life. You can study whales all over the world, you can study harbor seals all over the world, but you cannot study them in silence all over the world. So we really need this sort of piece of wilderness, this untrammeled wilderness, as they say, in order to answer some of these questions.
So we've been monitoring underwater sound here in Glacier Bay since May of 2000. And the reason why we're doing that is to understand what the park is like from the perspective of a marine mammal, because marine mammals are very dependent on the natural sound environment.
If you sort of bring it back to humans, humans respond to noise in very stereotypical ways, and other mammals do the same thing. So, you know, if you go to a concert with your buddy and the music's really loud, you're going to talk at a higher pitch. You're going to talk louder, and you might have to repeat yourself. And marine mammals do the same thing if it gets noisy. So we're seeing, you know, just which of those three that they actually do. We're here on Strawberry Island for the entire summer.
We sample 8 to 12 hours a day. There'll be 2 people who are on our beach station doing scans, marking each whale in the area, 2 people who are doing focal follows from our tower, which is a temporary tower that we have set up here on Strawberry Island. And then we have 2 people who are in the kayak who are doing fine-scale acoustic sampling for harbor seals. Got a harbor seal at 23 meters.
Got it? What's our bearing?
Bearing is 5822121.
Being able to pair what an animal is saying with where the animal is saying it is an amazing data set. It's a hard data set to get. It takes a lot of work, but it can answer so many questions.
So our cruise ship right here in the background is right on time today. We have a blissful hour and a half before the cruise ship gets here where we can watch our whales in silence. And then our ship comes in, bringing with it the noise that it brings, and we watch our whales while the ship's here to see whether or not their behavior is changing. And then it's going to go up bay and bring passengers to go see the glaciers, and we are going to get that blissful quiet again to see whether or not our whales are going back to that natural behavior.
This is the computer that runs our underwater acoustic monitoring. And there's a 5-mile cable from my office that leads out to a hydrophone that's out recording live sounds in Glacier Bay. And if I turn this up a little bit louder for the moment, that's the sound of a male harbor seal roaring because it's the mating season.
Strawberry Island. Building a good field team and building some good camaraderie is really important. We have sort of these daily routines of things that we do together. So there's a schedule that we check every morning, who's gonna cook lunch that day, who's gonna cook dinner. And then every day we take a group photo. And then every day we do a daily check-in. We talk about what worked that day, what didn't work that day, and what we learned either from the island or from each other over the course of the day. Surface 900600.
Last night, there were anywhere from 8 to 10 individuals right along the kelp bed off the point. We were trying to figure out exactly what they were doing. So as acousticians, Michelle and I got a hydrophone.
That seemed like the right thing to do.
Put the hydrophone in the water to see what was going on. Well, we dropped the hydrophone and it was so quiet. There was not a single roar.
Nothing. We heard nothing.
It was just so unusual.
One of the things we did observe yesterday was 2 large bull killer whales who had come into the area that we learned today were transient killer whales. They do come into this area to hunt harbor seals. This is a pupping ground. That's what they come in for.
Yep.
We cannot in any way, shape, or form definitively link the presence of mammal-eating killer whales with the silence of harbor seals.
No, but it is quite interesting that they happened at the exact same time. It's always an adventure on Strawberry Island. You never know what the day's going to bring.
This morning at 5:15 in the morning, the area was just boiling with whales. I had one 15-minute scan this morning where I was literally hopping back and forth on either side of the theodolite, calling out numbers to try and get all the whales as quickly as possible. And then 15 minutes later, we couldn't find them. Aside from getting to be outside all the time, my favorite part of doing my PhD is getting to work with Leanna.
It goes both ways.
It helps when you put two minds that think differently onto the same problem.
Global ocean noise is a real problem, and there are areas of the ocean that have underwater sound from vessels so often that you could almost consider it an urban environment. Glacier Bay is a very remote area, and it was set aside as a national park in part to do scientific research. And we're privileged to be able to use it as a natural laboratory where we can better understand the impacts of underwater noise.
There are some places that act like characters in your life, and I think that a lot of Alaskans can resonate with the fact that living here is like having another family member. It's like having somebody really, really important who's sort of nudging you to be a little uncomfortable all the time and to stretch yourself all the time because it's worth it. I've lived here for almost 10 years. I've made Alaska my home, and so I'm an Alaskan by choice.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at sea ice analysis for today, Sunday. Not much change from yesterday. Still ice extending southward here and up to the north 300 nautical miles or more off the coast. And again, some new ice forming up right along the edge there. And excuse me, for the marine forecast, pretty light winds in store for the southeast coast tomorrow. Kind of variable to mostly west-southwest at 10 knots. So seas still on the high side for this wind, running from 10 feet on the north coast to as high as 15 feet down to the south. Light variable winds over the central and southern inside waters with seas up to 6 feet though in Clarence Strait. Otherwise northerly canal southerlies at 15 with 3-foot seas. And for Tuesday, no change up there for northern canal, and more of a general northwest breeze, barely a breeze there for the inside waters, Stevens Passage, Frederick Sound, those areas on down to Clarence Strait with pretty slight seas. North winds 15 on the south coast, about the same on the north coast there. Seas coming down though, as high as 9 feet in the south coast and then falling back to about 6 feet up to the north. Prince William Sound, light east winds tomorrow and light southwesterlies here for Cook Inlet. 20 knots out of the west, Kachemak Bay, 15 for the Barrens, and southwest 15 up along the North Gulf Coast with 5 to 6 foot seas. Tuesday, northwest 15 through here, including Prince William Sound. Seas 3 to 4 feet. Big increase in the winds here for the Barren Islands. Northwest 30, 9-foot seas. Gales out of the west for Kachemak Bay. Cook Inlet, southwest 10 to 15. Bristol Bay, northwest 30 knots tomorrow, 11-foot seas. 25-knot winds from the northwest there across the Alaska Peninsula with seas 9 to 5 feet here on the Pacific side. And then those winds increase again, almost to gales, but not quite. But you'll have northwest gusts to 40 knots there from Castle Cape to Sitkinak. Small craft advisories for Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait, west 25. And for Tuesday, those continue. A little more northwesterly there on the east side. And then from Sitkinak down to Castle Cape, northwest 25. Castle Cape on out, northeast at 15, so much lighter winds here for the peninsula. Southwest there on the Bering Sea side, kicking up to about 20 for Bristol Bay. Fox Islands tomorrow, north becoming northeast here off to the west at about 20 knots, 5 to 6 foot seas. Pick up some small craft advisories here mainly south side. Again, winds increasing in the afternoon there, kicking these winds up on the south, not so much on the north, and 20 to 25 from the northeast out west. And for Tuesday, call it average north there, 15 to 20, northeast 15 to 25 here again. Strongest winds south of the Aleutians, that's where the small craft advisories will be, 25 to 30 knot wind seas up to 13 feet. Southwest coast, northwest 25, southwest 30 there due to that next system coming in out of the Russian Far East for the northern Bering Sea. Pribilofs west 15, small craft advisory St. Lawrence Island. And then the next day, we've got north wind, St. Lawrence Island 30 knots, south 35, a gale forecast moving into Norton Sound, southwest 30 for the southwest coast, and small craft advisories for the Pribilofs. Up to the north, let's start from Wales on up to Cape Thompson. Small craft advisories, north 25, 6-foot seas, 15 knot northerlies turn east on the central coast and fall back to 10, picking back up to 20 toward demarcation point again. And then for Tuesday, those winds swing around to the west-northwest, 15 knots on the central coast, 20 knots on to the east. West side, northeast 15. Cape Beaufort picks up to 25 knots, and Cape Thompson to Wales, northeast 30 knots with 5 to 6 foot seas. For tonight again, I've got a trough right through here, kind of signifying an upper level system here, slowly moving eastward. So rain and showers along that feature. Back up to the north, maybe some mixed precipitation, western Arctic coast. Chance of showers, Alaska rain, Kuskokwim Valley. Pretty nice out over the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Dry eastern interior, decrease in showers for the Panhandle. And still a risk of some showers, mostly cloudy southeast coast tomorrow. Dry eastern interior. This trough moves eastward. Pretty good chance of rain coming into south central Alaska, Kuskokwim Valley back to the northwest. And the next system coming out of the Russian Far East, spreading rain to St. Lawrence Island and increasing winds across the northern Bering, which will move to this position on Tuesday with the front trailing back to Nunivak Island with some rain. That's a look at the weather. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.